It's news from heaven. We're going to look today at why desire is important. Desire is sort of a funny word. It's a little old-fashioned. I desire to go to Brenbury tomorrow. Or it has like a romantic connotation these days. But the way we're looking at it in Swedenborg is it just might be the essence of not only who we are, but how heaven is organized. And we're going to go on this huge trip to see the divine in it. And it should funnel into stuff that helps us in our day-to-day. It's news from heaven. Did I say that already? This is a show where we're taking an annotated journey through Swedenborg stuff to try to get a picture of life in the mind. And this is a really cool concept that we're going to hang out in today. Before we do, please like and subscribe. Click the bell if you subscribe, or else you'll never know when a new News from Heaven comes out, and you might miss out on educational programming like this one. You can download this book for free as a PDF. You can go right along with us. It's Divine Providence. We're going to scroll down. There's a link in the description if you want to get there. We're going to scroll down to number 61. Let's see if we can't get a quick start into a definition of what we're talking about when we mean desire. And could you please, Swedenborg as well, insert any commentary into the importance of it. It doesn't have to be right in the first sentence, but maybe in the first couple. Let's see what he says. Our whole spirit is desire. Bam. That's us. The entirety of us. If we have a spirit, which often when we draw spirits, they're blue, right? This is our spirit, the thinking, feeling part inside of us, as well as the form that lives after death. Our whole spirit is desire, and its consequent thought. So we get a little bit of mystery here. Desire, isn't thought the opposite of desire? And its consequent thought. And since all desire is a matter of love, and all thought a matter of discernment, our whole spirit is love and its consequent discernment. So desire is one way to call it. He seems to be making some subtle distinction between that and love, but it's interesting to see this whole feeling to thought chain that we may think we get ideas that come in, and really that's mostly what drives our spirit. But Swedenborg is arguing that there is a desire that really exerts a ton of control over which of these thoughts really get in there, which ones we value, which ones we keep, which ones we erase. That is not just that mechanism, but really is our whole spirit. This is who we are. Are you not entertained? Is this not enough already to know? To think about ourselves like that. Who am I? I'm a person. What does that mean? Am I an assemblage of some skills? Oh, I can play baseball, but I can't really draw a baseball bat. Okay, so I'm an artist. That's one of my things. Also, I've got, these sort of friends in this configuration. I've got these related. What is this? All I am? Is my status or where I live? What I am? No, you are a desire. You are a desire. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's see if we find out when we're reading. And from that desire comes the way we think about life. This is why our thinking flows from the desires of our love. When we are thinking solely from our own spirit, as we do when we are in reflective moods at home. When you're all alone at your house and we're just letting our mind wander, that's when we can get a glimpse into, so what kind of, it's often actually very tough, Swedenborg says, to know what desire is driving what we think. But if you start to notice, where do my thoughts go, good and bad? I mean, this morning, just when I was driving to work, I started on this little thought train, and I was, okay, this is fine, I'm just thinking about it. And then very quickly, I was moved into this like petty, limited little chatter that had come up before in my mind. And I was like, oh, how did I get here? And Swedenborg talks about desire being like a current in a river that's pulling us along, even if we don't notice it. And I could just feel it so tangibly there. Like this whole thought train was just a trap to get me into this little whirlpool at the side of the stream here. Very devious. I've got to get that checked, that old desire thing checked. That's one way you can look. Just notice when there's not external things impinging on your trajectory, where does it go? That's how we can get a sense of what kind of desires. And if they're not good desires, that's fine. We're all a mix of desires at this point. But the premise is that as we move forward in spirit, we become more and more a single desire. That's actually the point of life, FYI. We may conclude then that when we become spirits, which happens after death. You could say we're spirits now, but, we certainly do have these bodies on us as well. We are the desire of our love. There's a phrase where we're using both desire and love. That's what we are. And not our thought, except to the extent that it comes from that desire. So you can be all over the map in what you're turning over, but in the end, you really keep what suits, what's deep down in your heart. This is something that amazed Swedenborg about the spiritual world, that he could explain. Sorry to keep doing these monologues so early. Can't we get to the text? But I've got to say this. He could explain to spirits that were caught up in evil and falsity because of the evil there. He would tell them things that were true, and things about love and why there's a better road in the social direction than the anti-social direction. And they would get it, but then as soon as they were out of that conversation, I don't need this. I don't need these factoids because they don't support my life. Aren't we like that if we're not hearing somebody because we don't want them to be right, even if they might be? We are drawn to what is evil. Oh, so this is how we can check, do we have like good desires and evil ones, and where and when and how much. We are drawn to what is evil, which amounts to a compulsion, and that's a good word for it, because it's really more something we're forced into. If you look at it may seem like, it's great. It's great getting to do all these nasty things that I want to do. I want to bicker with people and be negative and plot revenge in my mind. That's actually, if you look at the nature of it, we're not allowed out of those thoughts, even if we want. Those thoughts are not, they seem like I'm giving you these little jolts of ego joy, but really, it's not a free arrangement. It's really compulsion is right. If our love has been a love for what is evil, we're drawn to what's evil if our love has been a love for what is evil, and we are drawn to what is good if our love has been a love for what is good. I don't know what that means. Let's just skip that point. Unless he explains it more in this next sentence, we are drawn to what is good to the extent that we have abstained from evils as sins, and we are drawn to what is evil to the extent that we have not abstained from evils. So that loving is all about the action. And look at this here, because you've certainly heard religious stuff before saying, have you not? Don't do evil things. You're bad if you do evil things. So I'm not giving you any news on that. But look at this, to the extent that it's not binary, like you're good or evil, to the extent that we have abstained. So even if you feel like, I'm a pretty mixed bag here, even if we're trying at all, to a certain extent, we are not. And abstaining from evil is sin. That's a very religious, Christian-y sounding term. Swedenborg defines it in one place as it's recognizing that the impulse I have, the desire I have to do this thing, I'm not going to do that because I know it's not good. And you can get extra points if you know, because this is against God. This is against love itself. That's all it is. Okay? So that's the way we can start to suss out what we're all like. These paragraphs were our primer. This is what made me stop and want to have this as a news from heaven. This paragraph here and going on in there. And it's going to get really diagrammable. So if one of those pops up, I'm very sorry. Since we go from the individual picture to the broad picture. Since all angels, spirits and angels are desires, because if we are, they are, then we can see that the whole angelic heaven is nothing but a love. Wow, we're going to have to do some highlighting here. A love that embraces all desires for what is good, and therefore a wisdom that embraces all perceptions of what is true. All right, so let's just say we've got heaven. Let's say heaven has a big yellow border around it. Okay? So what is heaven? Heaven is an assemblage of these angels, right? I mean, that's what heaven is, where all these angels live. So let's say each little dot is an angel. We got all these different angels here. The angels are rocking out. The Lord is making them more and more the kind of people that you want to hang out with. Just they're streaming through love and truth. What is it? Is it just like a collection of individuals? Heaven itself is a love. And it's made up of each one of these angels. It's a particular desire for what is good. I don't know what an example would be. What do you think an example would be? Could it be that one person really appreciates the innocence of childhood and wants to make sure that people there are protected and allowed to progress fruitfully through that? Somebody else loves fairness and equality and loves the idea of everybody having the respect and dignity that they deserve. Somebody else loves getting aid to people in need. Somebody else is the love of comforting those who have been harmed in some way. You think about all those in this giant composite, that these are all the little sort of prism points on this love, this universal love that comes through. And then from that, a wisdom that embraces all perceptions of what is true. And I think that that's not just, well, each angel has love and then wisdom in them, right? But also there are heavenly and spiritual angels. It could be that all these perceptions of what is true are these spiritual angels. And because it's all connected, you've kind of got the love here, but then the corresponding perception. So basically heaven as a whole this is every good feeling that can possibly be had and every insight that comes from those feelings. Man. Further, since everything good and true comes from the Lord, and the Lord is love itself and wisdom itself, it follows that the angelic heaven is an image of him. That's what it means that we can be in the image of God. So you're really looking at, this is the Lord, or this is God. And that what does it look like when you see God? Is all these different feelings of love. If you go and read any near-death experience and they talk about being in the presence of, they don't always use the word God. They'll say being of light or the presence or just the light, but it's always this feeling of unfathomable love, that there is so much love coming in. But love is not just a featureless expanse, that there are, and we experience these different kinds of love. There are all these shades within it. You think about the different people that you know, and at their best, when you've seen them really becoming a channel or expressing or acting on a particular desire for something good to happen, or in a particular appreciation of something like, let's say, fairness, and then that person working in the world to make sure that that fairness comes out. That is a little bit of God. And then if you were able to take all those in at once, back to our picture here, that's when you're starting to experience what love is. Just like a prism, I said a prism before, but a prism is down here, and when the light shines into the prism, right, don't we get all these different wavelengths of light that come out that show what was in there in the first place? So that bright white light that is God has not just colors in it, but all these desires of love and wisdom. Okay, well, I've got the perfect diagram here, which accurately represents what we said here, and I'm not going to need to change it, which is nice. Let's just finish this sentence. And since divine love and wisdom are human in form, it also follows that this is the only possible form the angelic heaven can have. Human form. This is not a human. Let me see if I can amend that. Oh, good. There we go. Now it's a human form. So somehow, when you take all the love of what's good and all the perception and insight into what's true, everything good that can occur in the mind, each angel is embodying a part of that. This is where we get our mindset from. And the good stuff is God coming through heaven down into us, that we are each receiving our own teeny little part of this. This is sort of like the cloud for thoughts and feelings in the heavenly direction. That is coming in, and when you put all these together in their right order, this one goes over here, it ends up mirroring the community that is the human body, and that is why we can say God is human, that somehow these all love each other and work together like everything in the human body. You've heard me say that in many other episodes, so I'll spare you now. But to me, to think of heaven as an assemblage of love, and that you are wearing the teeniest little representation of this. So when we were walking around, in our little selves, wondering if we matter at all, and our head clouds coming in and trying to say that you don't, just remember that you've got this a glowing in the sky assemblage of all the love and truth and everything, and that is the epicenter of you. That's where you're radiating out from. And we are, again, this whole assemblage. There's everything little good and truth related in our mind. There's all these little good desires there, right? There's all these little good perceptions. We have this same heavenly pattern going on, which each little part of it relates to this grand scale one, and we are able to, from that, just like you can get this huge assemblage of parts, which ends up being this amazing experience of God and love and light that people get, because when you put all these colors together, you get this single experience. So we can take everything in us that's good and true and become this one desire that reaches out into the world. And eventually let's say we are a little purple person here, so you can see us in the next diagram. Eventually we go in, take our little place, right there. That we can be a part of this as well. Still human, still with everything in us, but that we fit in. And you can play a particular role because you are a desire for something that nobody else is. That you can increase the fullness of this thing by who you are. That is a good message to tell your head weather when it's coming at you. The reason the angelic heaven is an image of what is infinite and eternal is that it is an image of the Lord, who is the infinite and eternal one. We can see an image of his infinite and eternal nature in the fact that there are millions, I would imagine by now, billions of angels who make up heaven, and that they make up as many communities as there are general desires of heavenly love, with each individual angel and each community being quite clearly his or her own desire. So you could tell this person is a love for this thing, and we've got complexity here now, because it's not just that there are angels individually who are desires for these things, but you have a community which is more generally a desire for, let's say this person loves rescuing people who are lost some way, and this person loves healing people who are hurt, but both of these are care for people in need. And so this community is a need-based community, so they form together for a larger organ, if you will, which then these ones differentiate. Likewise, these ones over here differentiate because they all work together. They all have a similar goal, even if they are very individual. Then you start to get these larger systems working together, just like in the body. You have heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, all of that working together. This is the nature of love. And isn't it cool to think that you slot right in there, but in the perfect, you're completing this little set that had all the rest of the desires covered but needed you to get right in there. The form of heaven is made up of all these general and specific desires. General desires in a big way, specific desires down to the individual angel, which is you. A form that is like a single being in the Lord's sight, just the way a person is a single being. By the way, a person is a single being. That's a pretty big feat because we're made of bajillion cells that are all somehow working together like a single being. This form is becoming more perfect to eternity. And in case you were wondering, heaven seems great right now. I'd love to get myself a house right around here, or maybe you want to have one down here. But the problem is, a couple 100 million years from now, there's going to be so many people in here, there's going to be no good real estate, the smog is going to be terrible. Is heaven going to lose its appeal? This form is becoming more perfect to eternity as its numbers increase, because the more people there are who are participating in the form of divine love, which is the form of forms, the more perfect is the union. Because you might think, there's only so many kinds of love, there's only so many desires that you can have, but that's false. There are infinite. That just like the more we discover about the world, the more it seems there is to discover. The more deeply you look into something with a microscope, the more components there are. The more people that are born, we haven't yet run out of people, right? No two people have ever been the same. And it's not like, we've noticed now that there's so many people, we're definitely getting the same person over and over. This is the nature of God. There's infinite love. This can be perfected more and more. We can see quite plainly from this that there is an image of what is infinite and eternal in the angelic heaven. Because it's not just that there's all this love together staring us down, it's that can increase to eternity. And that's the nature of heaven, is that things are going to be good and they're going to be better and it's never going to stop. But not in this is taking forever, but just this, think about when you're excited about something and you know it's not about to end, that it can get better. The next step, that's exciting, that forever. And you get to be this essential building block of that. You are a particular love, a desire for something. And that's why desire is important. And that's the news from heaven. How'd it go? Do you feel hey, I'm taking my rightful place here as a part of this, the best, coolest project that can exist? How does that help you with your head weather throughout the week? Like and subscribe and leave comments about that. I want to be able to see how your journey is going. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. It's been great hanging out. Go out there, desire what's good, and let's build this really cool sort of heaven love prism and let it shine all over. See you later.